in the evolution of love, heart represents the love, and like in ancient Egypt, they recognized how important it was that it was, preserved separately. It was kept in the heart when you got mummified, versus all the other organs were preserved in jars, and then they destroyed the brain because they didn't realize that was important too at the time. And then for China, ancient Chinese medicine, they talk about the heart is the seat of the mind, and it is the fire element, and it's the fourth chakra, which is typically like a wellspring of love and emotional maturity that can be a gateway for healing. So, hello, Cat Blue. I recognize you from other classes. Okay, so we want to, the fourth chakra is where you can integrate, right, all of the opposites, the yin and the yang, the feminine, the masculine, the ego, the soul. And it's also, you can think of it as, in terms of energy, it's waves of energy coming from the fourth chakra that you share and exchange. It's like your biomagnetic field with others is what's coming from the heart as love. So it's confusing if you think about what is actually love. Like, what is love? I don't know what is love besides this song. What is love for you? So a lot of people and in the media, it's romantic love, right? But which is really puppy, juvenile, kind of adolescent, excitement, crush love. It's not typically showing mature, emotional, through thick and thin kind of love. I have a marriage of 20 years, so I know what that takes. And it's beautiful when you can cultivate that. But there's love of brotherly love, right? Not just in Philadelphia. Between siblings, between the parent and the child, between your colleague to your colleague, between the client and the business owner, between the teacher and the student, right? There is so much kind of different kinds of love. So you can kind of distinguish, because within the heart, where love is, there's pure soul love, and then there's emotional love from the ego. And we confuse the two a lot. So you've got the emotional love, which is all about desire. Could be desire of the flesh, but it doesn't even have to be that. Just desire of attachment of anything. And it's typically conditional, but it's very emotional. Distinct from soul love, which is very pure, unconditional, and is like compassion and universal, very universal love. So we have both right in that chamber, and there's different, I don't want to say there's a hierarchy of love, but in a certain sense, there's higher vibrations of love that we can do. And if you really look in your relationships, what love are humans mostly in? You can put it in the chat if you've got a guess here, an answer for between, is it 1, conditional love that most people are in? Is it 2? Is it, well, there's not really conditional, unconditional love if you break it down. 1 for Kendra. Mostly we are conditional love. Any other votes? 1 for Summer. And just take a look at your own life, if we're really honest. 1 for Angela. Yes. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, so yes, you guessed right. We mostly have conditional love. We just weren't taught unconditional love. Although I would say babies and so forth have more or less unconditional love. So this is what is a give and take, or a give in order to receive. And when we don't get that attention, or don't get that hole in our heart filled of loneliness, or we don't get the, companionship, the security, whatever that we want from someone else, we're like, see ya. And it's why we have a high divorce rate. People they're not grounded in their own soul love, coming together with another person grounded in their soul love. So it doesn't matter what the other person's doing, you can grow together, right? Mostly it's this give and take, let's say. Even with a child and a parent, like there was a time, right, where my son's now 12, just turned 12, but there's definitely a time when that innocence and all that was gone. His ego was coming in, he was talking back, and I'm like, dude, I gave birth to you and cleaned up poopy diapers like 12 to 20 times a day, I deserve respect. So I always have this conversation, like, my give and take and conditional is like, I want respect. And if you can't give it to me because you're going to smack talk or whatever, you know, bah. I don't usually ground him right away, or punish, but I'll be like, dude, lighten up or whatever. So that would be conditional love, right? Even though if it might be justified or whatever. So just look in your own life, honestly, are you in mostly conditional love in most of your relationships? What are you actually wanting and looking for? So we have Hyo love. Okay, so there's 3 levels in the Tao. So there's Hyo love, which is love of the family. Mostly, you know, children loving their parents, that kind of love. Then there's Chung love. Chung love is love of something bigger. So either an organization or a group, spiritual group that you're part of, or it could be your country. And then the last level is Tao love. And Tao love is universal for all humanity and all of our galaxy. So 3. Hyo is like family love. Chung is like organization level love. And then Tao love, the Tao, right? Universal love of all humanity. So the kind of Hyo love I'm talking about is more about not an obligatory love of our parents, but it's really an expression of gratitude, genuine gratitude, and, you know, repayment of noble kindness that parents give to their children, of their dedication that they've had since birth. And a lot of people think about, in a lot of families I see, tons actually in relationships, where parents feel guilty for working too much, so they buy a bunch of stuff for their kids. It's not material or guilt-driven or trying to fill a hole. It's just pure, genuine, like, gratitude. It's very simple, is what we mean by Hyo love. So it's pretty pure. Now look in your own family. Is your family happy? I'm just curious if you want to put in the comments, is your family happy? And I don't know you, you're pretty anonymous and you don't have to respond, obviously, or you can just put hearts if yes. But a lot of people can't say yes readily. So if you're bold enough, please put in the chat, is your family happy? And I would say 95% of families aren't. Which is kind of sad to say, but maybe I'm skewed because I coach people, right? So I'm seeing all the underlying stuff because all these people look so successful on the outside, and then you like look under the hood and you're like, oh, you know, lots of different things happening. Irene is working on it. Awesome. No, I feel sad about it. Oh, I got you. Is it Wout or Woot? I don't know. Cat Blue. Yes, just me. That's fair. It takes tons of shared inner work. Yeah, it sure does. You guys get it. Sure, I'm in no contact. Oh, yes, lots of healing. How not as a whole. Isn't that, it's like, it makes me so sad. And I get it, it's not like I have a perfect family. My immediate family is pretty freaking solid, but man, like Woot was saying, it takes a lot of work, a lot of intentional work. But definitely there's pockets with the extended family or, you know, relationships here and there. I'm like, Somewhere it's hard to be part of my family. I hear you. Yes. Well, I'm the only one willing to do the work in my family. Oh, yeah. Oh, I hear in all of you the heart and the commitment. Like, you, deep down, you definitely want the unity. You know, you want the peace in the family. And there's just so many dynamics. That could be like a whole session in itself, family therapy session. But I hear you. And then you marry into families, and there's blended families, and there's other people's kids, and it just gets really complicated these days. Adoptions and all sorts of things. My dad was a Korean War orphan, so he didn't even have family per se. I mean, his parents had disappeared in North Korea, and he was like bombed when his first memories when he was 3. But all of that, like, PTSD comes out later. It impacts our family now. We just had a family vacation, and It was like the first time, it was so much healing and like so awkward. Because we have my parents got divorced when I was 14, and then my dad remarried to Sandy, who's my stepmom, and about when I was like 16. She had a son, Sang-hyuk, who's my stepbrother, right? He's a lot younger than me. But anyway, they haven't all talked to each other in a long, long time. And for the first time in like 10 or 20 years, we all had a family vacation together for like 4 to 5 days, which I was like, that's a long time. For essentially, not strangers, but kind of for some of them. So, anyway, when so much happiness is expected to be given by others, the cracks get bigger because no one wants to do the work on creating their own happiness. Oh, yes. It's very astute or wise. Are we responsible for our own happiness? So that was the first question. Is your family happy? Such a simple question, right? And kind of everybody's like, not really. Except maybe for Cat Blue, because it's just her. And then I just was thinking of those situations too, where it seems easier not to like be in a relationship, right? I'm just going to be happy with myself. And then you're like, dang it, because you have to interact with people. You can't be a monk on a mountaintop these days. It's just such a different world. We're so interconnected with YouTube and now AI and all these things. I mean, now they're like in our psyche and in our public information. So it's inevitable that we're all enmeshed, and the blurred lines of even separation are disappearing as far as between countries and so forth. Anyway, so I'll talk about that in a moment with the next level of Chung love. But back to, is your family happy? Then you can ask yourself, are you happy? Because it does boil back to that first. And then the question is, if are you happy, like on a scale, I'm curious if you're willing to say, on a scale of just 0 to 100%, what level of happiness are you? Are you a 50, 60, 70, 80, 90? And then so I'll just wait a few minutes here. Irene, I'm seeing a lot of broken love manifestation carried on in kids. Yeah, I know, it just keeps going down the lines. So Kat's at 100%, great. And this is obviously a snapshot because it changes every day. If you're following your emotions. But you don't have to. You can be equanimous and kind of observe it. Even the good times. That's when I know someone's not like in spiritual bypass mode. 80% joy. Okay, great, Angela. And, like I said, it's not like we stay at one spot. We're kind of fluctuating. It could be a very large range of our inner happiness throughout the day, depending on how swayed we are by our moods. But yes, 88% for summer. Oh, very specific. 90% in my own company. I'm curious how in not your own company, what is it? Cat Blue, steadily enjoy. Yes. Okay, so that's the first level, Hyo. And it's funny because even if we just worked on that level of love, there's conditional and unconditional within that. Because as far as like genuinely expressing gratitude and, for my parents and dedication, that not from obligation. For me, there's a fair amount of obligation that I'm working through my stuff to have it be very pure. And I have lots of moments of it. But as far as like keeping that steady at 100% is, there's just layers, because I'll open myself up more, be vulnerable, something happens, and then I have to repair, and then come back again, get stronger from that, right? There's like a whole process. So level 1 of Hyo love is about, is your family happy? Are you happy? And if you consider we're all one, if you, involve other people, because that's how it is, until you leave this body and transition to a different plane or dimension, that's just how it is. So I would urge everyone to rate according to with people. Okay, so there's that level of conditional and then unconditional within Hyo. The next level is Chung, And this is at the level of your country or an organization or community you're part of. And Qigong you can kind of think as mission-driven people. They're dedicated to a great cause, so it's something bigger than themselves. But it could be, I'm in the business space, so it could be as entrepreneurs, a lot of people are like evangelizing their business mission. And maybe they have a large company and they have lots of employees, and maybe they even take care of them and they love their employees and they want to give them a great culture. But it's all about the company. And yeah, they might do some philanthropy and stuff on the side, but it's really about the level of Qigong, the level of that group outside the family. So a really good example of Qigong to the extreme, because Qigong has a very large range of like maybe, I don't know, I'm making up a number, a group of like 30 to 200 people. That's like the community level up to like tens of thousands of people. There's a general named Lee Sushin in Korea, and this guy, man, I'm going to actually probably read his story. It's kind of amazing. But this is a demonstration of Qigong love. And for this guy, during the battle, he lived during 1592. He's one of the most respected figures in Korean history, General Lee Sushin. He was a naval commander noted for victories against the Japanese Navy during invasions of Korea in 1592 to 1598, during the Joseon dynasty. So this again is Qigong love. So during the Battle of Myeongyang, General Lee Sushin victoriously led a fleet of 13 ships against an enemy of 333 vessels. 13 against 333. So he was considered a symbol of Qigong not only because he successfully led an extremely inferior military force in good order through preparation and superior tactics, was virtually undefeated. But he also remained true to Qigong during the circumstances in which it's really difficult to be loyal. So what is a measure of pure Qigong love is through the crap times. How do you respond? Because everyone can be in Qigong when it's all good and you're getting what you need, but we're talking about not those times. So he happened to be a victim of plots, of people jealous of his achievements, so he was dismissed and imprisoned 3 different times for things he did not do. He was twice forced to serve in the military just as a commoner, even though he's this great general. And because he had so much public support, people just loved who he was, his character. Then the king, he was suspected constantly of making himself the ruler one day. So people were just threatened by his goodness almost. And despite that situation, he continued and stayed dedicated in Qigong love to defend the country and the people from foreign invaders. So ultimately, he fulfilled his mission and then died in battle. Anyway, that's kind of an extreme example of Qigong when like you're getting thrown in jail, like, and the king himself is against you or leery that you're going to take over, all this stuff, and he just kept dedicated to the cause of like what's right for the country, for something bigger than himself, right? So that's on a country level, but companies then have a corporate center, and you can think of this as there's like a centrifugal force. So if you kind of imagine a rubber band with a heavy, it has to have a heavy center, right? That things revolve around. And so I'll get to this in a moment, but you want to ask what's the center that your life revolves around energetically. So in Qigong, countries will have the national center, or in a company, you have a corporate headquarters or center. In religions, you have a religious center. So it doesn't really matter what the organization is, it's about having some sort of centripetal point to function smoothly. And again, this is like a principle of centripetal force, doing a little physics here, and centrifugal force. So if you, again, imagine you're moving your hand in a circle, holding like a foot-long rubber band with the weight attached to it, then that's what we call the centrifugal force, is the circular movement of the weight flinging around with the rubber band. So the greater centrifugal force, like the faster it's going, the stronger that center has to become. Because what happens If it doesn't have a strong center, or what happens if you have like rogue people in an organization doing their own thing, not around the center, not around the shared vision, it pulls the whole thing out of orbit, right? So sometimes if you try to go too fast and it's weak in the center, then the rubber band breaks and there's chaos, right? This is how people operate in their life, right? In their bodies. So in your body, you have actually centrifugal force. This is your tanja. And most people's are so weak and it can't hold more happening in their life, so more chaos ensues. Or if you look, though, at the Chung level, I'll get to that in a moment about your own body. If you look at the Chung level, just look around you. What are all the communities you're in? What are the different organizations you're part of? And think about, is there a strong centrifugal force that unites everyone in that organization? Typically the centrifugal force will be like a shared vision, but a shared vision, not the CEO's vision or not the minister's vision. Like, it's got to be like a shared vision with the people in it. I'm thinking a lot about schools because my son's in middle school right now. So there's a very strong culture, very strong vision that no one's left behind, everyone belongs kind of thing. And that's very apparent everywhere. And it filters out to the parents too. Okay, so take a look right now, and you can put in the chat, think about what are the communities you're in, and just kind of chat, does it have a strong shared vision or centrifugal force? Maybe it has a different centrifugal force, right? That's not healthy. I don't know. I think there are probably rogue groups too, right? That like focus on hatred or anti-something. But just look in your own life to bring this home, this principle home. So again, what's important here for the second level of Chung is that it is something that if you are driven by, remember we talked earlier about the ego, the desires, and the emotional stuff versus the pure compassion and universal love. In this Chung second level of love, if the selfish side starts to take over of the emotions and the desires, and picture that happening in an organization, which you can probably see happening a lot. So you have the CEO, whoever, trying to hold it down. You have everybody rotating around to shared vision, and then you've got some people who are like, I'm not into this, I'm leaving, right? Or I'm going to, inside the organization, do different things that aren't aligned with the vision, or just do what I think is right. Obviously, that's going to now weaken the organization overall from being effective and diffuse that energy that is there in unity. So it's kind of like a cancer cell that gets unchecked, right? And it eventually will kill the host as well and itself. So people who lack consciousness to work for the betterment of the whole are considered to be self-centered. Now, before, I know there's like a big buzzword about like narcissism and selfishness and all this stuff right now. It's like a fad going through. But like really look honestly at ourselves. I think like the vast majority of us are pretty self-focused and self-centered in this, if we define it as this is, which is like, are we really day to day thinking about like the betterment of the whole of humanity? I would say no. Like, even if you're a good person that does good things, mostly we're thinking about like ourselves, right? Like, if for some people it's like, you're just trying to survive or whatever survival looks like for you, or for other people that are, stable or have some security level, it's still about like, what's my family gonna do? Which is Hyo level, which is nothing wrong with Hyo, but it's not expanded to Chung. So look for yourself, and I'd love to hear in the chat too, like really look. Are you operating at a Chung level in life, love level, where it's about the greater cause? And I'm sure many of you are. Those times when you're volunteering and like everything goes to shit. And you're like the only one left standing, but you still do it because it's the right thing to do to help those people or whatever you were going to do. I'm not speaking from experience. Yes, it's like every volunteer organization I've been in. So, when that centrifugal force is gone and there's not even like a unified vision, let alone any vision, or people aren't showing up or not doing their part, like what do you do instead? How do you show up? Because that will build your Chung love ability. To just stay the course like General, Sun Shin did. I mean, that's the extreme case, but okay. So the only difference, because I'm all about elevating humanity's consciousness, the only difference of evolved consciousness or not, well, we should say the difference between ego and consciousness or soul. The difference is the center. So the ego is self-centered, and by its own just desires it wants, its own goals in life, they could be even helpful goals for humanity, its own attachments by its own physical form, its own delusions of the mind, right? Whereas evolved consciousness or soul consciousness is centered always on the bigger picture of the betterment of all of humanity, the whole for which it is part of. It understands it's never separate. It is always part of the whole. Like there's no, if you really look, every single thing in your life is manufactured in like some other country, using somebody else's land, like everything from the microphone to this business card to this book, like everything, like this room, just in my room alone, is like probably representing like 20 countries of labor, manufacturing, distribution, just to get here, right? And then all the love that goes into it. It's kind of wild. Like, if you really think about it, it's like awe-inspiring, and you'd be in a lot of gratitude just for your basic day-to-day goods. Anyway, I digress. So again, ego consciousness versus evolved consciousness. I shouldn't say ego consciousness, just ego versus your soul consciousness. What's the difference? It's just where it's centered on that centrifugal force. So this is the big question, what is your center of your life? If you're really honest, right? Because a lot of people, especially on Insight Time or other spiritual communities, there's so much spiritual bypassing, that doesn't align and isn't congruent with their life, with what they say. So we're not talking about intellectually. Oh yeah, I'm all about oneness, the earth is great, all is well. Like, look outside, there's wars and then there's climate change and all these things happening. So there's a lot of actions to take, to be aligned and develop that Chung love. So ask yourself, what is your center? Like, really, what is your center? And it's okay. Like, again, I would venture to say 99.9% of people in the world are ego-centered on the self. Most of us are living in that way. I mean, really only enlightened living masters, I would say, aren't. They are 100% in the whole of all of humanity all the time, with moments of individualness, but most of us are individually living, every once in a while visiting the group. And that's not a problem, right? I'm included in that category. So I hope we can all be honest with ourselves. But that's the question to keep asking. What is my center right now? What is my center right now? And you can flip any moment into ego or soul consciousness. It's not a linear line of progression that you slowly build towards, or that it's a destination. It is literally a moment-to-moment phenomena that you're flipping into. You're in one or the other. You can't be in both at the same time. So you can cultivate Hyo love, Chung love, any moment. Like, right now, you're gonna flip back and forth 20 times in just a few seconds. It's kind of wild to think about. But our job, right, is to strengthen our center and stay focused as much as possible on continuing to choose, Hyo, Chung, Tao is the third level we'll go into now. And the thing is, so this is a really brilliant thing to say. The sphere of consciousness will expand based on your center and the size of the object of which you're embracing. Meaning, depending on where you're centered is where your consciousness will then expand or shrink. So the smaller you get and you're all about your little woes or petties or whatever, then your consciousness shrinks. The bigger you bring your consciousness to be about the greater cause or life itself or humanity, the greater consciousness gets. So it's more like this is happening every second. When I said switch, which I kind of get a picture like this, but it's more like this. Shrinking and growing, shrinking and growing, shrinking and growing, each moment. So again, I leave you with, where are you placing your center? Okay, the third level is Tao. And before I get into Tao consciousness love, the highest level of love, the universal compassion love, is to give compassion to ourselves about why is this so hard to stay in Tao love? Why is like the 99% of humanity in like conditional love? So I will speak briefly on Tao love. If there was one center, what is our center that Tao love is? If you kind of just really step back and look, that centered love could be, it's not like the right answer here, but the earth. Because humanity has to live on the earth. And earth is nature, it's our home, it's our environment, it's all integrated. So if we all related to ourselves as not, you know, from a country or all the labels we have, which is all getting blended anyway because everyone's intermixing. You know how you meet like the Chinese guy with an Australian accent that was like born in London, and it's getting so complicated these days. I don't know where anybody's from. I don't even know like how to ask the question anymore. Anyway, so but we're all, no matter like where you're born, coming from, growing up, what language you speak, all of that stuff, we all live on Earth. Simple. That's our center, Earth. So you could say Tao consciousness or level of love is Earth love or consciousness. Not like some environmental thing. I know in the States that term could be used that way in our Western world, but like, I don't know, maybe planetary consciousness is a better word, but it's like, it's that level. That could be the center. Okay? So again, why is it difficult? Because Hyo, Chung, and Tao are constantly fighting. They're in conflict with each other. Here are some examples. Let's look at Hyo and Chung levels. So if you're a parent, or even if you have nieces or nephews, or you don't have kids, that's fine too. But let's say that a young person comes up to me and said, or I'm imagining my son doing this. He's like, Mom, all I want to do is... Oh. Okay, this is too close to home. Maybe I should give a different example. Anyway, it's where, you know, the kid's like, I'm going to go do this cause. I'm going to work in AmeriCorps. I'm going to become an artist. And the parents are like, it's kind of a greater cause or mission that they want to, maybe, you know, they want to travel the world and do service. And as a parent, you're like, love the heart, but you need to make money. Or love the heart, but who's going to take care of me? Or whatever. So there's a conflict of familial Hyo and Chung love in that case. Or another one could be, you know, you kind of want them to have a stable, comfortable life as a parent, but the other person, or this could be a colleague, a friend-to-friend relationship, but they want to like join the military and fight for the country, or they want to, you know, go fight for justice and social activism, or go make a movie and save the world or the planet, right? So there's like these greater causes pulling them, but then you're like, dude, just that seems really risky, right? So that's a conflict of Chung and Hyo. So what do you do, right, in that situation, like where there's a conflict? And, you know, some people might be like, oh, I love, you know, that you're going to be an environmentalist or do something, but, you know, family's important. You know, I've dedicated my life to you. I birthed you. You should do this. Stable job or whatever it is, right? So it's difficult because the child's now like, shoot. Do I disappoint the parents or my family or society, myself, or do I go after what I want? And then we have the conflict of Chung and Tao. Okay, so this happens all the time, where you have, you know, the UN meets together, they decide on a policy, but they all have self-interest of the Chung level, of my constituency, of my political party, of whatever. So I'm not going to sign that Kyoto climate change agreement because my country or my political party does not want that, right? There's that interest. So like this actually happened in the 2009 UN Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen, Denmark. We had officials from 192 countries gather, and this is back in to have a global climate change agreement by 2012. You know, the Kyoto Protocol was about to expire. So they couldn't reach a long-binding agreement that was long-term because rather than what would serve the whole human race called, hey, we want a planet to live on, there's too many representatives that had Chung-level interests for their country. Okay, rather than, again, what served the whole. So that's another example of Chung and Tao conflicting. Same thing in religions, right? You have religions are supposed to embody the Tao love, right? And there are moments, I don't want to say they don't, but if there's excessive loyalty to a particular dogma or faith to which it belongs in, that can stand in the way of peace for all humanity. And even after people are resolving, like, okay, let's not kill each other, let's, be kind and be in peace together, tolerate at least one another. Many people still believe, like, I've got the one truth, I've got the one religion that's right, and so that automatically gives the Chung to Tao level conflict. So interreligious conflict will never be resolved until believers abandon their insistence that their religion alone is the only way. I mean, just by virtue of what it is. I'm not saying it's good or bad or what is truth or not. I'm just saying you can't solve the thing by the thing itself that's causing the problem. So then there's Chung that fights with Chung love. Right? So you just have ethnic cleansing, you have zealots, you have political parties, right? All fighting. So I'm not here to like depress you, but I'm just pointing out that's like the reality of things. And so it's interesting, right? When I ask you, are you happy? Because if we're all one and that's all happening, can we really be happy, right? Now, obviously we've had a whole string and we're in the middle of different wars, but there's, people wage war for peace. And so it's murder, right? If you're killing one person, but if you're killing in a war, it's like courageous, right? It's kind of another conflict. So when we justify bloodshed. So people, there's just a lot of little bits. You can kind of think of it from, if you step back from the Tao eyes and look at the whole planet and the consciousness, there's all these like little values and bits people are fighting over, calling it my God or this God or that, legislation or this right value or whatever. And so there's all these little bits that aren't looking at the whole. And so the bits fight. So we have a lot to learn as humans. How do we actually live these values of love with what the world is? Okay, so in general, unless the human race can learn to harmonize our values and coexist, at least, just coexist. We don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to believe in the same things. We really don't. Like, we can coexist. Then my dream and what I'm about and what my energy masters are about of, really catalyzing a new era of humanity, it's going to be empty. It's not going to happen, right? So we have to bring Tao consciousness. Oh my God, it's already 53 minutes in. So the highest evolution of all love is Tao consciousness. So this is just simply the law of nature. It's not a belief system. It's not anything. It's just the light. Tao is life force that is in our breath, that is in all things. It's just the energy of things. It is infinite, right? Just it's going to keep on going whether or not we exist or not. It is... it can't be defied, like you can't ignore it, and it can't be owned or dominated. It is just what it is. And that, we could call that Tao love, the highest evolution of love. So when I refer to cosmos, I'm not talking about planets and galaxies per se. I am talking about just the universal laws of the universe. So it's just all the energy that animates everything around us. So you can really discover the laws of this without going into space, right? You can just look at your own heartbeat and experience the magic of that. You can go outside and see nature and experience these universal Tao principles that dwell in all things. So again, going back to the center, if we can develop a strong centripetal center of consciousness, then we can actually utilize Hyo Chung towards Tao consciousness. When it's all separated, that's where we get in trouble and the conflict happens. If we all have Tao consciousness in mind, then there's no conflict. So the greatest exterior center that we can create together on this call and in beyond and in your family is earth consciousness. Because every human being on earth is a soul companion that is journeying. We're all here together to grow our souls. Whether you're in your individual life, if academics, economics, science, of your job, your family, religion, politics, we can all contribute, all of us can contribute to the vitality and sustainability of our Mother Earth, right? You have to kind of check yourself. Every time you buy something, I always say vote with your dollar or your click. I'm like super hella serious about all this stuff. So my floss, I found out floss was plastic, and I'm like, what? And I saw pictures of the floss getting wrapped around all these little creatures in the ocean. I'm like, oh my God. I had no idea. I mean, I know about the plastic Pacific Island swirl, but not floss. I mean, something so simple, but so I buy this compostable, sustainable silk floss, which was annoying because it broke a lot, so I had to get the charcoal infused kind. Anyway, there's tons of companies out there now, and you can just get, I mean, it's that simple. It's sustainable floss, and it's in a glass container, so I'm not using plastic. I'm not contributing to killing little critters. And every time I floss, I know my little floss is going to biodegrade. That makes me happy. So from the tiniest things like that, of the choices of what you choose to buy from, right? I used to be a financial advisor, and I specialized in impact investing. So I had to research, and I knew, what companies, the big corporations were, very bad, scored poorly, not just on environmental, but on people, how they treat their people. Is it slave labor? Is it, there's women on the board, things like that. And then, it's got to be profitable still, so as well. So anyway, everything you buy, though, it took me a long time to buy certain things. So oh my gosh, this is so cheap for a reason, because it's usually slave labor. So, but I try to have everything in my life be pure, it's sourced purely. It's manufactured local. I try to grow my own food, my Tao garden, all that stuff. So all that matters and contributes to your pure Tao consciousness. And these are simple, easy ways that we, there's wars going on. What do we do, right? Well, you can shop well. That's a very simple takeaway. Just care, right? Don't buy from companies that clearly don't care, right? Even if it's convenient, even if it's cheap, try to do your best. And no company is perfect, just like humans, so you have to factor that in and make your own choices, and it can get complicated. But in general, just have your heart generally, support local, support, things that aren't harming other things in the process of being made, things like that. Okay, and then, and I make a point, if I go across, I mean, I do this, you don't have to do this, but if I see easy practice, okay, can we just have some recycling bins, or can we just have some compostable, whatever? I try to actually talk to, the business that I go to that's doing it. I don't all the time, but if they're using, styrofoam and just all these things, it's unnecessary. So there's little things that you can do, but start with your house. Try to, you can look at zero waste or things like that. Is placing earth in the center. Okay, so because we're passing into, we're in this crazy age of global interconnectedness. We've got AI, we've got everything's so interconnected. It's kind of wild to think about, right? You can, have coffee and a pastry at a New York bakery, and then you can enjoy sunrise in Hong Kong, eat a dinner in Italy, and it all in the next day, and globetrot. You can basically view anything in the world, have access to any piece of information right from your own home on the internet. We can all telecast together, watching an Olympic event or doing something together. And again, we're also blended in our nationalities now these days, and we're far beyond the dimensions of Hyo and Chung anyway. So that used to work back when we were hunter-gatherers, and your world was so small, there wasn't internet, and you didn't know anything else than just your family and maybe the tribe, right? So that worked then. It doesn't work. We gotta evolve. Our consciousness must evolve to Tao. And we really can't do it all alone. Like we've got Enlightened Masters. I have 2 that I follow, right, or are trained under. And we have, there's lots of gurus actually. There's many things. But the difference is it's just not enough. We can't have a few masters or gurus anymore. Everyone needs to become an enlightened master. That's where you come in, right? So you can develop yourself as an enlightened master to bring that Tao consciousness, working on yourself first, right? The mind-body connection. And then that will tear down the boundaries anyway of Hyo and Chung love, if we're all inside of Tao love. And we have to dissolve the ego, or partner with it, I like to say, until that's more precious. So when we have 2 things placed of value for us, like he gives the example, if I have gold and you offer me like, I don't know, aluminum, I'm like, no thank you, obvious value on the gold. If I give you diamonds, which is more than gold, I might be like, oh yeah, here, I'll take the gold. So we have to make Tao consciousness like appealing like gold compared to our Hyo and Chung that we're holding on to. Because it is. My moments of Tao is like, it's amazing. It's like, oh my gosh. I want everybody to experience it. Feel this like falling down on your knees and like gratitude just for being alive, like that kind of Tao love is what I'm talking about. And I have experienced multiple times in different scenarios, not just on a mountaintop of enlightenment, which yes happened, or in Sedona with the vortexes, yes that happened, but like doing laundry, right? Just doing the day-to-day, like that's when I knew it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like we can all self-generate Tao love inside ourselves all the time. So cool. And anyway, it gives you the fortitude and the strength and that center to then deal with the other loves. So that's what I have for today. You don't have to discard your ego and all the goals that you have individually on Hyo and Chung at all. You just take that and implant it inside of Tao love, and then you're good to go. So when we talked about the 5 issues of life, of money and fame and family and health and all those things, like as long as those things are inside of the umbrella of Tao love, it's for a greater, bigger purpose. That is Tao consciousness. We don't have to give up our lives. We just have to be centered, right, for a greater purpose. And to bring it all home into the body, because that's what we do is the mind-body stuff, is you want to bring that Tao love. The only way you're going to like dissolve the ego, okay, or have it be your partner is to, that's your servant, so to speak, to the soul, is developing your own power center in your body. Because the actual, like I said, the emotions and the desires actually live like in this location of the 4th chakra with your soul love. And we want to sprout and grow this love and dissolve that membrane of the ego and the desire, emotional love, emotions, into to marry into there's actual a phenomenon that happens in the body with the 6th chakra. Pineal gland explodes when this love comes in here, and that's when you see all things and can hear all things. And this, if this is weak, this can't happen, this flow. So if you, all those exercises we did, if it's tapping, the intestinals, all that stuff, it's not just, oh, feel your body heat up. Yes, it's water fire down, but that's just the beginning. You can develop this in such a way that it overflows into the heart, grows past the desires and the egos, and then, you become an enlightened master. So, like I said, we all have, it's not like you were born like that. We just had a shit ton of layers. So if we can just keep cutting through, right, and delayering, doing the work. It takes work, as we all know. It naturally shines. There's nowhere to get to. There's no hours to, yes, it takes hours to put in, but there's no place to get to. It's in you already. You already are an enlightened master. That energy is in you. You just have to, get through those damn layers of the thoughts and the emotions, the ego. And so it grows and grows and grows and grows, this soul of, and then, can merge with divinity and be Tao love. So it's kind of simple, actually, in the end. Okay, I could go on and on about this stuff because I love talking about this stuff, but I will stop here. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, please let me know. Your donations are what helps keep this free for everybody to join. So 100% of that goes towards my company, Soul Joy, and that's exactly what we do, is all we do is, in our membership, is practice this, this energy love coming and getting strong enough, yes, through Qigong Tai Chi classes, but through just principles and through practices and tools in a community. And then from here, it can merge and then explode out. So I'm like on a mission to create as many enlightened masters as possible, including myself. I have had many moments of it, and I'm able to hold it there longer. But I've got lots of work to do. And so I just keep doing the work, right? I'm going to go talk, so think about the actions you can take today to start to grow that, right? Me and my dad kind of had this funny thing happen. So I haven't been kind of like this, like, I'll share what happened because it's kind of funny. So I'm a singer-songwriter, and I was like singing my song, Freshly Minted, and the first thing he says, like, I haven't seen him in a while, or I see him, but not the other people, my stepmom and Songhyun. So I'm singing, I finish, and I'm just sharing, right? And it's a new song, so it's not polished. And he just goes, not a singer. And I was like, oh, and he goes, but your lyrics and your composition is amazing. So I'm thinking, I'm bigger than this. I'm like, oh, whatever, just ignore his comment. And then he keeps going. He's like, gosh, if you could hire a singer, a professional one, that would be really great. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, Dad, shut up. Like, we were having a nice moment. Let's just keep it there. But he keeps going. And he's like, what, you want me to lie? Like, you don't want me to be honest? And I'm like, oh. And finally I was like, Dad, because usually I'm kind of the I don't say anything type. I don't fight back. So I just was like, Dad, it's just unnecessary. I was like, you don't need to tell me your thoughts or opinions. I wasn't looking for that. I wasn't looking to be judged. I was like, I just was sharing with you. And I was proud of my response because normally I wouldn't respond that way. But it kind of ate away at me. Unfortunately, I know, I'm still working on my own energy. And especially the dad-daughter relationship. And then it was like, it was, my songwriting, which is like my precious thing. It was just it was a test of my soul of like, how's she going to react now? You've grown your energy. Can you handle this? I was like, oh, good test, soul. So, long story short is I'm kind of hesitant because I don't feel safe around my dad a lot of times. And so, anyway, long story to say, I'm gonna talk to him and share how I feel and as loving as possible, without blame or judgment, but be honest and straight. Like, hey, I sometimes avoid you because I don't feel safe. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna get happy, awesome dad or like PTSD dad, and I don't know. And he's in a space, to his credit, best work he's ever done. He's been working on himself a lot too, so he's at a place where now he can hear it for the first time, then get super crazy if I say any little thing like that. So that's his progress. I'm very happy with that. Anyway, I'm just sharing. I'm going to go talk to my dad. That's how I can develop Tao consciousness, to have Hyo and Chung love mold into Tao, just be honest, not, be loyal to my soul and share in hopes that it's bigger. And I implore each of you to look for those hard areas to keep working on.